City Council gets a look at a lengthy list of proposed capital projects. Hospital officials looking for support from City Hall. And the shutdown showdown continues in the U.S. Capitol.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Mayor Keith Hobbs believes the City of Thunder Bay may need to take on additional debt to pay for some critical capital projects.
City Council will receive a report tonight on $148 million worth of strategic infrastructure projects that the city will try to complete in 4 years. The work includes roads, bridges, facilities, and contributions to things like the art gallery on the waterfront. Now, among the big projects are greenhouses at the conservatory and a conservatory display house. Those costs are pegged at nearly $4 million. The list also includes money for youth centers and additional phases of the events center, including construction costs of $35 million in 2016. Hobbs says lists and price tags like this are what give mayors headaches, but the city's infrastructure is crumbling.
Look at the Junot Golf Links corridor, for example. That's about a $17 million project, and you're just seeing phase one being completed. It's beautiful, and those projects cost money. So we're looking at all kinds of options. We might have to get some, do some debt, to get these projects done. Don't want to always look at that, but we're in good financial shape in the city.
Council will also consider providing a one-time grant to the Thunder Bay Indian Friendship Center of $57,000. That would go towards purchasing the former Port Arthur Plaza Vita. The building would then be converted into a youth center.
The Thunder Bay Regional Health Sciences Center could soon see their entire grounds smoke-free, and those who are still considering lighting up on the property could also be facing a hefty fine. Today, hospital officials gathered outside to celebrate their commitment to maintaining a smoke-free grounds. But as Courtney Rutherford reports, hospital officials also need assistance from City Council tonight when it comes to enforcing those changes.
I've never smoked in my life, so I agree with this non-smoking on the property.
More Stoica is welcoming the news that people could soon be ticketed if they are caught smoking anywhere on hospital property. Stoica visits weekly for routine blood tests and says he's tired of coming across cigarette butts left on the grounds. Regional Hospital Manager of Preventative Services Kelly Jo Gillis says the facility has had a smoke-free policy since opening, and it's time they crack down.
This is a healthcare facility. We have to remind ourselves of that we are interested in the health of all people in Northwestern Ontario, everyone that comes through the doors. So that being said, we have had, similarly, we have had complaints from non-smokers or past smokers or smokers for that matter who want to be able to come onto our grounds knowing it's a healthcare facility to be able to be supported to not be smoking on the grounds.
Currently, if someone is caught smoking within 9 meters of the building, they could be fined $305. Gillis says if City Council decides to amend the current smoking bylaw, the fine would cover those smoking anywhere on the property. The change would force smokers to walk to the Oliver or Golf Links Road entrances if they are looking to light up. As the snow falls and temperature drops, Ken Gallant, manager of security at the hospital, says that people walking in the cold is one issue they will have to deal with.
Mobility, I think mobility with patients. So really with staff and managers seeking the compliance with patients in particular who continue to wish to smoke. Hopefully the programs that are going to be provided to them will assist them.
Those who come to the hospital as a patient or visitor and require smoke breaks will be provided by the hospital with nicotine patches and support services. Courtney Rutherford, TBT News.
The old saying goes, if you build it, they will come. But can a new event center really help to bring national and international sporting events to Thunder Bay? Those are questions that have been hotly debated for a number of years now. This past week, a pair of sports tourism experts weighed in on the matter, and they both agree, yes, it can. Sports Alliance Ontario CEO Blair McIntosh was one of several industry experts to speak at a recent sports tourism conference presented by the Canadian Sport Tourism Alliance. He says with adequate accommodations and an international airport already in place in Thunder Bay, the only thing missing for the city to host an event, say like the Scott Tournament of Hearts, is an up-to-date sports venue.
That whole theory of build it and they will come, it really does happen. I mean, it has to come with a very strong marketing plan and a long-term marketing plan for the facility. But it's one of those things where a facility like that is certainly going to enhance your abilities and bring it to a whole new level in terms of sport tourism.
If you're looking at it from a quality of life standpoint and what your community can and could be, then it makes all the sense in the world. Because these facilities, if it's managed properly, can be used to the benefit of future generations.
Trier adds, though, that he is not in a position to comment on the best location in the city to build an event center. He says that decision varies from municipality to municipality and is based on a number of local factors.
The best way to build a vibrant community is to strengthen that community. That was the message coming out of a workshop hosted by Thunder Bay's Crime Prevention Council today. The group brought in a Seattle native who has a passion for getting people engaged with their neighborhoods. Cheryl Holmes has more.
Community builder Jim Deers says too often people depend on government agencies to solve all their problems. His goal is for communities to figure out how to cut through the red tape and say yes to projects that can make each city better.
And kind of remind people and agencies that there's some things best done by communities. That agencies can't build community for us. They can't build relationships for us. They can't take care of our kids. They can't take care of our elders. We best do that ourselves.
Deers says people tend to treat community projects with more respect when they've been involved in the creation of those projects. Individuals and organizations came to the workshop to figure out how to do just that. Steve Mantis is the co-chair of the Community Action Group. He says the group wants to determine how a community can be strengthened to become a happier and safer place for its residents.
I feel like we're on the right track. Our group has been active for about 18 months. And we started out going through the neighborhood and asking, what are you good at? What are you willing to teach others? And that's really the approach that's being advocated here today. Instead of focusing on what the problems are in the neighborhood, what are our strengths?
There was one young man who was in the neighborhood who was putting together bikes. And so I got him to put together bikes, and I often thought about, helping him start up a bike repair place for him. Yeah.
That's an exact way in which this workshop is encouraging residents and organizations to work together to improve relationships. Deers says there are two main components to his message.
Start focusing on those underutilized resources, because that's the basis for real partnership, because then the community's actually bringing something of value to the table. And the other is, instead of always thinking, God, we know what's best for the community, to recognize sometimes the community knows best.
In his mind, the best way to strengthen a neighborhood is by utilizing each individual's skills and experience and seeing how those unique differences can work best with government to create the strongest social networks. Cheryl Holmes, TBT News.
Highway 1117 west of Thunder Bay was closed earlier this morning after a collision involving two transport trucks. The accident happened just before 5 o'clock this morning between Wraith and Chappaqua. Both trucks went into the ditch and fell onto their sides, sending one of the drivers to hospital with non-life-threatening injuries. The cause of the accident remains under investigation.
There's support from a regional organization for the return of the spring bear hunt. The Northwestern Ontario Sportsmen's Alliance is backing MPP Bill Morrow's private members bill that would increase the number of opportunities to hunt bears. John Kaplanis is the executive director of the Sportsmen's Alliance. He says the organization estimates the population of black bears at around 150,000 across the province. The current fall bear hunt ends on October 31st, but Kaplanis says that most bears are denned up by then. With the number of nuisance and dangerous encounters with bears on the rise, he believes there are no other alternatives.
The spring bear hunt or some early season form of management is by far a better means to get the numbers under control, eliminate dangerous nuisance encounters, and I think that Bill Morrow's acknowledged that with his private members bill, and it's going to, I think, enhance discussion in government.
Kaplanis acknowledges the bill has a slim chance of passing, but he's encouraged by the discussion. He adds there are millions of tourism dollars available if the province was to reinstate the spring hunt.
A justice of the peace has fined a Dryden man and another from Alberta a total of $2,500 for harassing a moose. This follows an incident in July at Eagle Lake near Dryden in which a motorboat repeatedly drove tight circles around a swimming moose, preventing it from reaching shore. Witnesses reported the incident to the MNR and even provided a conservation officer with video. At one point, the Dryden man reportedly jumped out of the boat right onto the moose's back.
Those wanting to visit the lookout on Mount McKay will now have an easier time getting there. The old gravel road leading to the lookout was very steep at points and sometimes hazardous to travel on. But after some work, a new paved road is nearing completion. Crews are almost done with the new layer of asphalt on Mount McKay Lookout Drive. Last fall, a lot of work went into replacing culverts and trimming the road to make it less steep at certain points. Guardrails still need to be installed in places, but Acting Economic Development Director for Fort William First Nation, Walter Bannon, says everything should be completed this week. And he's pleased that it will be ready for a big event in November.
What we wanted to do was make sure that it was available for the November 11th Remembrance Day ceremony, so that we could have the capabilities of buses and people coming up here without the gravel or some of the problems that we've encountered in the past.
This marks the completion of Phase 2 of the First Nations road plan. The next phase will see the secondary streets off Mission Road, like the ones leading to the office complex and arena, paved. That's scheduled to get underway next week.
A song of hope is resonating through our community, and now it's getting some national recognition. A sold-out concert and video premiere of the song, titled Hope, will be hosted at the Foundry tomorrow night to raise money for the Canadian Cancer Society on the first day of Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Mama's coming home real early, tears are running down her face. I could tell that her heart was bleeding.
When Capri Roberto Anderson wrote this song last year, she never imagined the impact it would have on people all over the world. Now, the 13-year-old has teamed up with Imaginarium Studios to film the official video of her family story and her mother's battle with breast cancer.
We had to relive my mom telling everyone, me coming home, all that stuff. So when you see all that stuff, it's really what happened. And I don't know, expect the real story, because that's everything that's in the videos of it actually happened. So
the one-night-only special event will feature a pink carpet and a launch of the video for the song, Hope, which will be uploaded to capricanada.com tomorrow. The song will also be available for purchase on iTunes. Those who have helped her through the process say they never expected the song to grow so much.
The same thing, and she's just sharing a great message that the world gets to see, so that's awesome.
Going through such a hard time in my life and my family's life, it's nice to have something good happen. Do you know what I mean? It's really a blessing to us, yeah.
The sold-out concert and video premiere will be live streamed online at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. The fundraising goal is $10,000. All proceeds, either from donations or purchase of the song, will go towards the Canadian Cancer Society.
It's an event that's of significance to many in this community. Members of the police service marched through the streets of Thunder Bay yesterday to mark the Police and Peace Officers National Memorial Day. Mike Albanese reports.
The Thunder Bay Police, RCMP, OPP, and the Anishinaabe Police Service all took to the streets today to honor those who gave their lives protecting the citizens of their respective towns. Thunder Bay Police Chief J.P. Levesque spoke about the effect the public had on the walk.
I can't help but be proud. I know as we walk by the intersection, see our people saluting the flags as they go by, watching the columns march in order. It's like I say, it's a solemn occasion, but it's also a very proud moment for me, and I'm sure the rest of the members of our service.
Levesque also touched on many effects the parade has, whether it's bringing honor to those fallen, bringing the public closer to the force, and just reminding people the dangers that come with any job or duty, particularly policing.
We're not only here to honor those who've died in the last 12 months and given their lives, but we're also here, it serves as a way to remember that policing is inherently dangerous, and you really have to be particularly careful when you're out in the road dealing in any situation. You just never know.
Amongst the public and the officers were some dignitaries. One in particular was MPP Michael Gravel, who was honored to be able to attend the event. With all the police do to protect the public, he is always happy when this day rolls around and he can pay his respects.
To have this one day a year, which has now been in place for a number of years, to be able to commemorate the extraordinary bravery that is shown by the police force, particularly here in Thunder Bay, is certainly something that I appreciate having a chance to be a part of, and I think the public in general feels the same way.
The parade ended with a memorial service at St. Paul's Anglican Church and will happen again next year on the last Sunday in September. Mike Albanese, TBT News.
Well, turning to weather, hard to believe we're fast approaching October. A warm and breezy day, but I don't think we really should get used to this.
Well, we shouldn't, but might be nice to try, or at least for a few days, because we had some beautiful warm, dry air push its way into the region today. Yes, there are showers and nasty things to the west, but right now we're getting a really gorgeous flow, which means it's really not a surprise that we hit a high of 20 today. Not a record, but definitely a good 7 degrees above the norm for this time of year. And that's with winds at times gusting up to 47 kilometers per hour, although it did help that it was coming from the south-southwest, so nice flow. Right now we're at 18 Celsius across the region, high teens, low 20s, fair amount of sunshine to the northwest. As you head further directly west to Fort Frances, it's a little bit cloudy right now, but for the most part, beautiful day across the region. And tonight, we're going to stay within the double-digit range. And again, as I said, this is well above the norm. This is only 2 degrees below the normal high for this time of year. Normally, we're looking at lows of about 3 Celsius, so you can't complain about 11 Celsius under partly cloudy skies. And as we head into tomorrow, maybe you shouldn't get used to it, but as I said, it's a possibility you could, at least for a few days, because we've got a lot of heat coming into the region, anywhere from 5 to 8 degrees, maybe even higher, possibly, as we head into Tuesday, Wednesday, possibly Thursday. But I wouldn't hold your breath on that, because as we get to the very end of the week, things are going to change dramatically. We've got some showers moving in and some very chilly air on the way. I hate to use 4-letter words this early in the season, but well, there are meteorologists that are using the word snow, and I'll have more details on how that could all come about. But, you know, I don't believe it, so we're fine.
Still guaranteed to get people's attention. All right, thanks very much, Fiona. Well, there's still no deadline or no deal in sight as the midnight deadline of the U.S. debt ceiling looms, and that means a large part of the U.S. government's work could grind to a halt. Details on that story and more as your Monday News Hour continues.
So the president will negotiate with the Iranians. The president will negotiate with the Russians about Syria. But the president and the Senate will not talk to the House.
The U.S. government will be forced to shut down if an agreement isn't reached by midnight tonight.
If the shutdown comes, it would be the first such closure in 17 years. The cause of the stalemate? Barack Obama's health care legislation. Neil McDonald reports.
Stock markets are already sliding. Businesses with government contracts are bracing. And the American people may soon find out just how much they rely on federal government services, which are headed towards a shutdown at midnight.
The House will be in order.
And yet, House Republicans, who are threatening not only to shut down the government, but to bankrupt it, say they're doing it because the American people are demanding it.
It's time for the Senate to listen to the American people, just like the House has listened to the American people.
Actually, House Republicans have been mainly listening to the Tea Party. A small group of the party's far-right legislators are determined not only to shut down the government, but to provoke a catastrophic default on the nation's debts unless President Obama effectively agrees to repeal his signature health care law. Obama said again today he won't.
Yeah, I've said before, Congress has two responsibilities: pass a budget, pay the bills.
Several senior Republicans have said this whole thing is probably political suicide, that voters will punish the Republican Party if it forces a shutdown or default. But its Tea Party caucus seems eager for the fight.
So the president will negotiate with the Iranians. The president will negotiate with the Russians about Syria. But the president and the Senate will not talk to the House. Aren't Americans as important as Syrians, Russians, and Iranians?
The fact is, the health care law known as Obamacare was a major issue in last year's general election, and a majority of Americans voted for Democrats. That matters not at all to the Tea Partiers, though. There may only be about 40 of them, but because of the mathematics of Congress, they are now running the House of Representatives, and they believe they are the people. Neil McDonald, CBC News, Washington.
Foreign Affairs Minister John Baird spoke to the UN General Assembly in New York this morning. He spoke about the conflict in Syria, Canada's commitment to human rights, and global threats to the welfare of women and girls through forced marriage. Baird also expressed skepticism about Iran's recent diplomatic overtures to the West.
Some observers see encouraging signs, but sound bites do not remove threats to global security. Kind words, a smile, and a charm offensive are not a substitute for real action. We will welcome and acknowledge reform if and when it comes.
Baird delivered much of his message to a thinning crowd of global representatives, as many world leaders have already left the UN.
Meanwhile, UN chemical weapons inspectors are preparing to dismantle Syria's stockpile. An international team of top experts departed for Damascus today. It is the most dangerous disarmament mission to date, an attempt to destroy an estimated 1,000 tons of nerve agents like sarin and mustard gas. Inspectors will have to wear protective suits, armor, and sometimes oxygen tanks in 35-degree heat, and they will have to work quickly to meet the UN's tight deadlines. The Syrian president has said he will cooperate.
A new report is out on how often inmates in federal prisons intentionally try to hurt themselves. Last year, there were just over 900 incidents of prisoners doing things like banging their heads against walls or trying to choke themselves. Today's report says prisons need to change the way they deal with inmates who have mental health issues. Julie Van Dusen reports.
Canadians were shocked by the Ashley Smith story. 6 years ago, the young woman choked herself to death at a prison in Kitchener, while guards stood by and watched. Today, the prison's warden testified at a coroner's inquiry into Smith's death.
And they asked me specifically, when do you go into the cell? And I told them I couldn't tell them. They had to use their training, experience, and discretion to assess the situation.
Federal correctional investigator Howard Sapers says there are more potential Ashley Smiths in federal prisons.
For these 8 women, there are some parallels to Ashley Smith's case.
His report included an investigation into the cases of 8 women who are chronic self-abusers like Ashley Smith. He says they should be in a mental institution, not a prison.
We made 16 recommendations in this report, and one of them clearly is to transfer on an urgent basis this handful of the most acutely mentally ill women who are at significant risk.
Sapers found that the number of self-injury incidents has tripled in the 6 years since Ashley Smith died. Prisons respond to self-injury as bad behavior, met with restraints, pepper spray, strip searches, and segregation, which Sapers wants banned. Some experts argue these measures, especially strip searches, are counterproductive.
It's, I think, demoralizing for staff as well as brutalizing for women.
Sadly, what we see, and we saw this with Ashley Smith as well, is that when the women resist those strip searches, they often face institutional charges.
The government says there will be more training for staff, more counseling for prisoners, but makes no mention of Sapers' key recommendation of more transfers for those who are mentally ill. Julie Van Dusen, CBC News, Ottawa.
3 men pleaded not guilty today in the Surrey 6 murder trial. They're accused of gunning down 6 people in a high-rise in Surrey, BC. With the latest on the trial, here's Chris Brown.
For Eileen Mohan, this was a day to dread. Finally, after a 6-year wait, 3 men accused of murdering her son would be in the prisoner's box in front of her.
I'm going with Christian spirit and myself and sit down and learn what I can and see what happened.
On October 19th, 2007, at about 2:45 in the afternoon in this Surrey condo, prosecutors say the 6 victims in one of Canada's worst ever instances of gang violence were shot execution style. 4 of them had drug and gang connections, but Mohan's son Christopher and fireplace repairman Ed Schellenberg were murdered as possible witnesses, say the Crown. Prosecutors began their case by showing graphic photos of all 6 victims. They were put in 2 groups of 3, facing head down, and each shot at least twice in the back of the head. The Crown claims the motive for the killings was control of the drug trade and a brutal turf war. 2 of the accused, say prosecutors, Matthew Johnston and Corey Habisher, were ordered to kill a rival, Corey Lau. Prosecutors say they went to Lau's apartment, the one in Surrey, Unit 1505, to murder him. The Crown says the hit was meticulously planned and ordered by Michael Lee, who was the gang leader of the Red Scorpions. All 3 defendants pleaded not guilty as the long list of charges were read out. Afterwards, Eileen Mohan said taking it all in was overwhelming.
I wish I wasn't here and Christopher was here with me, but I have to see this through, and it's going to be a long haul, but
There's much more to be revealed in this trial, but one early stunning fact was that police apparently stumbled across the 3 men as they were preparing their hit as part of a separate, unrelated surveillance investigation. They apparently didn't realize the significance of it until it was too late. Chris Brown, CBC News, Vancouver.
Kingston Penitentiary has been an active prison for 178 years, but today Canada's oldest and most notorious prison officially closes its doors. Over the past several weeks, all of its 400 inmates have been transferred to other institutions. The prison has housed some of the country's most infamous convicts, including serial child killer Clifford Olson and schoolgirl murderer Paul Bernardo. The prison is expected to be put up for sale by the federal government, but not before dozens of tourists get the chance to see the inside of the prison. Tickets for the tours benefiting the United Way are sold out.
Turning to today's market activity now. The TSX lost 57 points, falling to 12,787. Dow dropped 128 points to 15,129. And the Nasdaq down 10 points to 37.71. Canadian dollar was unchanged from Friday's close at 97.06 cents US. Gold down $12 to $1,327 an ounce, and oil down slightly to $102 a barrel. With Major League Baseball's regular season coming to an end yesterday, this was supposed to be an off day as teams prepare for the playoffs. Instead, a bit of a bonus for baseball fans.
Yeah, we got the playing game tonight. Blue Jays should be involved. At least, you know, they should have been. At least according to the so-called baseball experts, of which I am not one of them, obviously, because they didn't do very much this year. We'll have the lowlights on their season coming up following this. You're going to let the fun officially begin. The final playoff spot in the American League will be decided tonight in Texas as the Rangers host the Tampa Bay Rays. The winner will earn the second wild card spot in the junior circuit. Now, after the Rays avoided the sweep at the hands of the Blue Jays Sunday, holding off the Birds 7-6 at the Rogers Center, the Rangers ripped the Angels 6-2. So that left Texas and Tampa Bay tied for the final American League wild card spot. So the Rangers will host the wild card tiebreaker with the winner traveling to Cleveland to face the Indians. That starts Wednesday. The loser heads home. And it's been a long, long year for the Miami Marlins. You thought the Jays were bad, having hit the century mark in losses. Fans of the team finally went home happy as former Blue Jay Henderson Alvarez would toss a no-hitter against the Detroit Tigers. The pitcher would be on the on-deck circle when the game's only run would score on a wild pitch in the bottom of the ninth. A wild ending to their season. The Coastal Steel Orioles throttled the Daytona Dodgers 13-3 in Game 1 of the best-of-7 Senior Men's Baseball Final Sunday afternoon. Andrew Agambar had 3 hits and drove in 3 for the Victors. Game 2 goes tomorrow night at Baseball Central. And the annual Northwestern Ontario Sports Hall of Fame induction dinner took place at the Valhalla Inn Saturday night. Swimmer Andrea Cole and women's hockey star Katie Weatherston were among the 3 athletes inducted.
And I think it's really starting to sink in. We were seeing some videos earlier about some past inductees, and I'm really starting to feel like I'm part of a big family, and it's such an honor. And I'm sitting at my table and reminiscing about where I started from, where I really started from, and the fun that at first it was fun, and then it was challenging, and then I had all this support, and then there were these great accomplishments. So, you know, I'm just thinking of all of that, and it's really great.
You know, I had a great experience here growing up and my hockey, soccer career, and I played numerous other sports, and it's great to share it with friends, family, and just local sports people. All the different experiences, just chatting with people tonight, and I have a few coaches here that I've said thank you to, and supporters, and my parents for sure.
Stanley Cup winner Tony Herkus was the 3rd athlete to be inducted. He couldn't attend the ceremony, but his family accepted on his behalf. In the builder category, a pair of Bryans got called to the hall. Brian Mellon has dedicated a lot of his life to both curling and golf, while Brian McLean has been instrumental in growing the sport of bowling in our region. And the 1991 Canadian Open Lightning Class Championship sailing crew became the first sailing team to enter the hall.
Great accomplishment. I kind of thought that we'd continue on with that much success, but it hasn't come all that easy ever since. So yeah, it's a great honor.
Sailing is great. It can be done at any age. They start at like 4 years old. And we were just at a Transpac race in California, and there was a 76-year-old man there racing. It was fabulous. Like, I mean, you can do this at any age.
It indicates that we're not just a hockey town, as fantastic as we are in that sport, but it's our coaches have developed great athletes. Our builders are diverse in terms of the sports that they bring into the community and the sports that they dedicate themselves to develop their athletes in. And there's no barriers to anything. I mean, you can travel around and compete in all different things. And our athletes here in a community that sometimes isn't the warmest in the winter, we are producing fantastic, swimmers and sailors, and it's just fantastic.
A 3-0 start to the season has the Thunder Bay North Stars ranked 9th in this week's Canadian Junior Hockey rankings. Stars forward Brandon Wolframe is the SIJHL's Player of the Week, racking up 8 points in only 3 games. Week 4 in the NFL comes to a close with New Orleans hosting Miami in the Monday Nighter. Both teams sit at 3-0. On Sunday, New England held off Atlanta 30-23, so the Pats stay unbeaten while the Bills upset the Ravens 23-20. Now the rest of Sunday's story.
Eagles Broncos, Peyton Manning completing 28 of his 34 passes, 327 passing yards, and 4 touchdowns. Denver wins big, 52-20. They are 4-0. Seahawks Texans, Seattle looking for their first 4-0 start in franchise history. They were down 20-6 in the fourth. Seattle gets within 7. Matt Schaub picked by Richard Sherman. 6 points, game tied. Overtime, Steven Hauschka kicks a 45-yard field goal. Comeback complete. Seahawks take it 23-20. Giants Chiefs, Dexter McCluster on the kick return. He is got 89 yards to the house for the score. Chiefs improved to 4-0, 31-7 the final. Bears, Lions, Reggie Bush rushing for 139 yards in the game and a score. He had 112 yards in the first half alone. Lions take it 40-32. Colts, Jaguars, Andrew Luck throwing for 260 yards and 2 touchdowns before sitting out part of the fourth quarter. Colts take it 37-3. From London, England, Steelers, Vikings, both teams 0-3. Adrian Peterson, 2 touchdowns, 140 yards from the ground. Vikings take it 34-27. Bengals, Browns, Brian Hoyer, 269 yards and 2 touchdowns. Browns win 17-6. Cardinals, Buccaneers, Bucs quarterback Mike Glennon. First career NFL start, replacing the ineffective Josh Freeman late fourth. He's picked by Patrick Peterson. Cards score in the ensuing drive to tie the game after a Bucs 3-0. Jay Feely, game-winning field goal. Arizona comes back to win 13-10. Cowboys, Chargers, Phillip Rivers 2, Antonio Gates looking great this season. 56-yard strike. Rivers, 401 yards, 3 touchdowns, career high, 35 completions on 42 attempts. They win 30-21. The 0-3 Redskins facing the Raiders after being down 14-0. The Skins score 24 unanswered points. RG3, 227 passing yards and a touchdown. They win 24-14. Jets Titans, Jake Locker, 3 touchdowns in the first half, but he leaves with a hip injury. Other end, Geno Smith had 4 turnovers, 2 picks, 2 fumbles. That adds up to the Jets losing 38-13.
The Sports Up Midget AA Queens went 4-0-1 at a girls hockey tournament in New Hampshire over the weekend, wrapping up with a 3-3 tie against Detroit. Next up, they're off to Blaine, Minnesota, October 18th for another tourney. The Lakehead men's cross-country runners, led by Kevin Tree, finished 4th at the Roy Gryak meet in Minneapolis. The women were 19th. CFL action yesterday. Riders receiver G. Roy Simon looking to become the league's all-time leader in catches, and the former BC Lion would accomplish that 10 minutes into the game as he gets up after taking a hard hit to surpass former Alouette Ben Cahoon's a record of 1,017. He ends up with 1,018. The largest crowd of the year in Montreal, over 24 grand, saw the Alouettes take the early lead. Deron Carter would take a Josh Nicewander pass and do the rest as he finds the end zone for a 45-yard touchdown. The visitors from Regina tie it early in the fourth. Weston Dressler would hook up with Darian Durant for the touchdown reception, but in the end, Durant's 3rd interception of the game would be the difference as Chip Cox makes the big play as the Alouettes hand Saskatchewan a 4th straight loss, 17-12. The Alouettes now a very disappointing 5-8. It was also a big weekend on the hard court for a young Canadian tennis player.
Is the champion in Thailand.
Yeah, Milos Raonic won the Thailand Open this morning. The big Canadian defeated the Czech Republic's Tomas Berdych in straight sets. Raonic fired 18 aces on his way to his 2nd tournament win of the season. It's also his 5th career victory. And due to our warm temperatures, we could almost end up playing tennis tonight.
No, looking at Rogers, though, you've got to think, what is he, 24 years old?
Yeah.
Still far from his prime. The best is yet to come. We've got a lot to look forward to from him.
And anyone who could serve that hard, one of the hardest serves in tennis, he's going to be around a long, long time.
Oh, you bet. Thanks, Randy. Yep.
All right, if you missed last week's premiere of The Blacklist, don't worry, it's back. And I got to tell you, James Spader could be one of TV's most popular bad guys right now. With more, here's your lineup on Teletalk.
Tonight we've got mystery, history, and a criminal mastermind on Global Thunder Bay. Starting at 8 on Bones, a gang member from a youth center may be connected to a murder. Then at 9 on Sleepy Hollow, a soldier in the army of evil invades the dreams of the town's residents. And at 10 on The Blacklist, Red predicts a catastrophe caused by an assassin called the Freelancer. Over on CKPR Thunder Bay tonight, we have an all-new season of murder and mystery. First at 8 on the season premiere of Murdoch Mysteries, a ship magnate's daughter disappears. Then at 9, a masked gunman kidnaps a woman from a psych ward on the return of Cracked. Teletalk is brought to you by Points, the traffic ticket specialists.
Beautiful day outside today, Fiona. It looks like it's a beautiful start to the second week of fall.
Yeah, we really don't have a whole lot to complain about when the temperatures are as lovely as they have been across the country, and Thunder Bay included. We topped out with a high of 20 under variable skies. Now, the trees are starting to change color. It's just gorgeous out there. But if we take a look at what's going on in the west, some parts are a little cooler than others. Now, Vancouver currently at 13, a fair amount of sunshine. They are expecting rain tonight and could see an additional 25 millimeters tomorrow. Meanwhile, Prince George, a very chilly 6. 7 in Edmonton, and Calgary, well, fairly seasonal, except there are some pretty strong wind gusts up to 100 kilometers per hour tonight for areas just east and southeast of Calgary. Meanwhile, southern Saskatchewan is fairly seasonal and not looking too bad in Saskatoon. They got a nice bit of sunshine, a little more cloudy in Regina. Got to tell you about Winnipeg, though, 22 Celsius. Gorgeous day, lots of sunshine. That taste of summer is definitely holding on, and that also seems to be the case for southern Ontario, for Toronto at 20 with a fair amount of cloud cover, but some sunny breaks here and there. Ottawa and Montreal still holding on to low 20s, and that's going to stick around until about Sunday. Quebec City, currently at 18, is also enjoying the heat. and the Maritimes. Very seasonal. They've had nice bits of sunshine during the day, holding on to the heat in the early evening hours, and it's going to cool off under partly cloudy skies for most of the region. St. John's, though, this is the big one to watch out for. Today, they hit a high of 25. With the Humidex, it felt like 28. The old record was 21.8. So they basically destroyed the old record by almost, well, about 3.2 degrees today. Now, if we take a look at what's moving in through the region, we do have a cold front that's going to drive its way through. So you might see a little bit of a drop in temperature, but it shouldn't be too extreme. However, there is some precipitation to the north that we might start to see a little bit more cloud cover from tomorrow. And as we head into Wednesday, we've got another high pressure center that's going to push a little bit more heat and a little bit more sunshine, but it's not going to hold all the precipitation off for too long. By late Thursday, early Friday, we could be in for more rain. Tonight, temperatures in the double digits for a lot of the region. It's only a little bit further north and to the west that we hit single digits, such as Red Lake and Kenora. They're looking at a low of 8 tonight. Could see a touch of rain in the Red Lake region, but tomorrow, fair amount of sunshine across the board, high teens. So there's that little bit of a cool down, and yes, a slight risk of rain as you head in a more northwesterly direction. At this hour, we're at 18 Celsius under mostly cloudy skies. Tonight, a low of 11 under partly cloudy conditions. Winds are going to be from the south, so that nice southerly flow is what's going to hold in some of that heat overnight. First thing in the morning, 13 Celsius as you head off to work, kids head off to school, and partly cloudy skies. But what you're really going to notice, not just the temperature in the afternoon, but the wind starting to kick up to 35 kilometers per hour. So it might be a little bit blustery out there. Our high for the day is going to be 21, and at times up to 48 kilometers per hour by late in the day. Wednesday, start to see a little bit of a cool down there, 18 Celsius under partly sunny skies. Thursday, we could see some spotty showers. You can see that temperature starting to dip, 15. 16 on Friday with a risk of rain. Remember, 13 is our norm for this time of year. And then Saturday, we hit 8 under wind and rain. Now, here's the problem. This is where the four-letter word comes in. We've got a low of 0 and rain happening at the same time. That's where there's the potential for snow, but we're all going to think warm thoughts. Not going to happen. That's your forecast.
As we move into fall, one of the more noticeable sides of the change of season is seen, of course, in the trees around us. We take a closer look at the colorful annual fall leaf display in tonight's edition of Cool Science.
With autumn here, beautiful fall colors are now appearing on our deciduous trees. Deciduous trees require an enormous amount of sunlight to photosynthesize or capture the sun's energy to make food for the tree. But in the autumn, they drop their leaves to preserve energy over the winter. Leaf colors come from pigments produced by leaf cells. The three main pigments are chlorophyll, carotenoids, and anthocyanins. Chlorophyll gives leaves their green hue. But as winter approaches, trees respond to the decreasing amount of sunlight by producing less and less chlorophyll. Carotenoids create the bright yellows and oranges, and some trees make anthocyanins, which add the color red. So the colors we see in the fall are always present, but normally hidden from view. If you're planning your garden based on color, you can find out what color your trees will turn before the fall. Place a leaf on a coffee filter, and using a marble, press the green juice into the paper. While your paper is drying, pour rubbing alcohol into the bottom of your jar. Hang your coffee filter strip so that the very tip is touching the alcohol. Cover the jar for about 24 hours. The leaf colors will separate on the paper. Now that's cool science.
For more information, visit tbnewswatch.com.
I know a lot of people plan drives at this time of year to take in that leaf display. Pretty soon you're going to have the option of a bird's eye view. We'll have details when we return.
future of transportation has arrived. A New Zealand company, Martin Aircraft, has designed the jetpack P-12, which will be on the market in mid-2014. The price? Oh, a mere $200,000. But plans to commute like George Jetson may have to wait. The company says the first units will only be available for policemen, firefighters, and other first responders.
I don't know about you, but the thought of flying around up there with all sorts of others coming at me from every possible direction, up, down, and sideways, scares the heck out of me.
Is it just me, or did that not look a little bit like a lawn chair?
It did actually, yeah.
As long as it's comfy, but like I said, I prefer to remain on the ground. Anyway, recapping our top story of the day, City Council tonight in looking at a whole list of capital projects, a list with a price tag of $148 million.
And the playoff play-in game in the American League takes place tonight in Texas as the Rangers try to make it 8 straight wins against Tampa Bay. The winner of that gets Cleveland.
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Have a good night.